This lesson is going to be an exploration of the chords and songwriting secrets of Let's Go Away For Awhile by the Beach Boys off their legendary 1966 album Pet Sounds. I'm not going to go over how amazing that record is and how amazing the chord progressions and the orchestration and all the different, studio musician orchestra that he was using with the Wall of Sound people and then more. This song is an instrumental. It's one of, I think, two instrumentals on Pet Sounds, the title track and Let's Go Away For Awhile. And it's kind of a break from the onslaught of vocals. There's just so many vocals on a Beach Boys record. It's almost like this exotica track or like a psychedelic sort of space age type of thing. It gives you a nice little break and really gives almost that easy listening lounge, but slightly more progressive in a certain way. It has some pretty unique chord progressions, as almost every song on Pet Sounds does, and I'm going to break them down for you and see if I can place them, roughly into a key or show you the movement that it's making so that we can at least understand what it is, even if at times it is, ambiguous as to what key it is, which at certain times I would say that it is. Make sure you are subscribed to my channel and that the notification bell is set to all notifications for my channel. But the very best way you can help me is to subscribe to my Patreon music school called High Castle Conservatory. The more support that I get on Patreon, the more time I have to devote to making unique music education content for you. Lastly, please consider buying my original music projects I.S.S. and High Castle Tele Orchestra on Bandcamp. You can find the details and links in the description below. So this chord chart that I use here, it's my chord analysis chart. It's pretty easy. A sunshine means a new key. The Roman numerals below the chords basically indicate which function this chord is of the key that we happen to be in. So on the first bar, I'm claiming that we're in B flat because of this sun, and that this C major with an F in the bass is a 2 major, as that Roman numeral represents. So this song, like I said, has some interesting pedal tone chords, and I've talked about this in previous lessons. Sometimes you don't start right on the one of a song or something that's obvious as to where you are in the key. I think this is a great example of that. So sometimes you have to just listen ahead and see if something catches your ear as far as what key we're in. Obviously, you see that I've already said we're in B flat, so I've kind of given it away. I probably should have just hidden that. But why are we in B flat? This doesn't make sense. Why don't we listen here to the first, let's say 8 bars or so. So it seems to come to a rest on that B flat major 9, no 3. The other thing that really strikes my ear is that A flat 9. It's the sound of a flat 7 chord, and I've gone over in lots of my other lessons how important flat 7 is to any key. So if we're in B flat, the flat 7 is A flat, but it's not in the key of B flat, right? A natural is in the key, not A flat, but any major or minor key, you can almost at will go to a flat 7 chord. It's been used through all of pop music and jazz history. So this first thing I would call a pedal tone. It's got some dissonance in it, and the first chord is C over F. Man, this seems like such a simple song, but they're not going to make it easy. For any of you know that C over F is almost not a thing. F is the sus, right? It's the sus of a C major. So if I played it there, it doesn't really, it's too dissonant. But if you drop that F an octave or 2 octaves, you get this chord that Steely Dan would use all the time, and it's a major triad with its perfect fourth in the bass, or the sus4. A perfect fourth above this C is F, and you put that in the bass. Now, the interesting thing about this, it almost has the exact sound of an F major 9 chord. F major 9 implies a major 7 also, because we didn't say add 9. So F major 9 would be this chord. But here's the thing, is it doesn't define a third, which is what makes a chord major or minor. It omits that A. So you can't really call it a major 9 necessarily. You could if you wanted. Listen to how close C over F sounds to F major 9. So here's C over F. Now here's F major 9. I just add this note. So if you called this, F major 9, no 3 or something, I even called something that later, and you can see on bar 6. Sometimes the way I name things is I'm trying to fit it into a key. So this chord is a great songwriting secret. I would say nobody has used it more effectively than Steely Dan. It's almost a part of their sound to do these major chords with a perfect fourth in the bass, and they'll move them in a sequence of just really quick, like in their song Josie. The verse is just E minor, and then it suddenly breaks into... That is all those chords. A major over D, to G major over C, to D over G, to C over F, and then back to that E minor. Anyway, I'm just showing you that this chord is incredibly versatile, and it's really cool that it doesn't define. I can't, in good faith, call it major 9 because it doesn't have a major 3 or a minor 3. It omits the 3, so I feel obliged to call it C over F. Now, what is actually going on in this intro anyway? Let's listen to this pedal tone. Pedal tone's where the bass note stays the same. Now, finally, that flat 7 that I finally won. So I could go in and actually call this in a different key right away. Could it be in C major? We're going C to D, and D is like a 2 major. That could also be 4, 5, and G, right? C major to D major. But there's no F natural in the key of G major, so it's hard for me to call that in G major or C. Let me show you some little weird exercise which sounds to me like what this song, I'm not sure this is what Brian was thinking, but let's say we're in this key of B flat like I'm saying, right? Now I could keep this B flat as a pedal tone and just hit different chords. Let's just go to 2, C minor over B. Let's go to 3, D minor 7 over B flat. 4, B flat. E flat major 7 over B flat. Now you could also go to 5 and do the same thing, which would be F. 5 of B flat is F, so you could do like, there's F. What if you just did all these different chords? Right? Or it's almost like this song just starts in the middle of a weird chord progression. It doesn't start you in the key of B flat where you're just like, yeah, we're in B flat. Or to me, I could, like I said, I could probably call that C over F to D over F in either the key of C or D, and then all of a sudden it switches to B flat. But instead, I think this is just doing like a reharmonization in B flat. So C would be the 2 major of the key of B flat. D major over F would be the 3 major in the key of B flat. In the song, Brian has some instruments doing some plucking kind of things, which would be like... But I'm going to play it more like... So the first chord is the C over F, the C major with its perfect fourth in the bass. And then the next one is a D major over F. Now that's very, very strange to have a minor third in the bass. But that's exactly what we have. And that speaks to the power of the pedal tone. The pedal tone can sustain some weird tensions. Watch. but the pedal tone can allow for things like D major with its minor third in the bass, like D over F. So C over F, D major over F, now finally E flat over F. Then right away, Brian drops you into the unknown. By hitting that C over F, you have zero indication that you're actually in the key of B flat major, right? He drops you instead on... But the interesting thing about this pedal tone of F is, since I'm saying we're in the key of B flat, I haven't really told you why yet. It's coming up. All we're doing is a pedal tone, right, on the 5 of B flat, which is its dominant, right? If you just got a little bit creative, right? Then finally, that E flat over F. That's a really cool chord. Now, what is E flat over F? If you were in B flat, that's the 4, but over the 5. It has just that kind of 70s, kind of 80s, 70s, everything sound. If you're in B flat and you just do a 4 chord like E flat, but you raise the bass, it gives this sound that you should be very familiar with. But there's another name you could always give to that chord, a major chord with the bass up a whole step, an F. You could call that F9 sus4. A regular F9 would be this. Sus4 means you raise the third. So you could call that F9 sus4, which basically shows you that it has a function as 5 of B flat. Now, the dead giveaway for me for what key this song in comes on bar 5 and 6. So let me play from the beginning. C over F, which I'm saying is 2 in B flat, and 3 major. Finally, A flat 9. Then to B flat major 9. There's that little resolution for a second. So the thing that caught my ear more than anything was that A flat 9. No 3 though. Gosh, I'm being a hypocrite. Remember on the first bar I told you can't call this chord an F major 9, this C over F chord, because it's got no 3. Now here I am calling A flat 9 no 3. What gives? Well, what gives is that my ear heard this, and it heard the classic flat 7 to 1. Now, what is the classic flat 7 to 1? Let me give an example. Beatles, In My Life. So what is a classic flat 7? In any major key, in this case we're in B flat, you can use the flat 7, which is an A flat major or an A flat 7, even A flat minor if you wanted to, as a chord you can go to even though it's not in the key, because A natural is in the key, not A flat, but doesn't matter. Watch. So there's this classic sound. If I'm in B flat, here's that flat 7. Beatles used it all the time. So think In My Life. I'll tell you, I'll play it in B flat and I'll tell you where that flat 7 comes. And it's exactly the sound I heard. So for me, I was just using that ear and I heard that classic flat 7 to 1. And I just want to show you what that sounds like with the Beatles, In My Life. There are places I remember all my life. Oh, some have changed, some forever, not for better. Some have gone and some remain. Here we go. We go 6 to 4. I know I'll never lose affection. Here's that flat 7 of people and things that went before. So I know I'll never lose affection. Here's the flat 7 of people and things that went before. I know I'll often stop and think about them in my life. It's really just, for B flat, it's this sound. That is not in the key of B flat, that A flat, but flat 7 is a constant companion when you're writing music. It's always an option, and it's non-diatonic in major keys and even in some minor keys. Let's listen to those chords leading up. So right here coming up, I heard A flat 9. Listen. Doesn't sound anything like a minor. So, right or wrong, my ear pulled right toward that classic flat 7 in a chord progression. And it goes right back up to the B flat major 9, no 3. Finally, we're at the 1 after this weird chord progression and not really understanding what key we're in. We get the signal to go flat 7, 1. Now, let me tell you something about this B flat major 9, no 3. Do you remember I told you hypocritically that the C over F shouldn't be called an F major 9 because there was no A in it? We had that. So in this case, why on earth am I telling you B flat major 9, no 3? We have B flat down here, major 9. There's major 9 implies major 7. There's major 9. There's 5, but no 3. I could call this F major, right? Over B flat. Just like the chord in the beginning, right? That same chord with the sus4 in the bass. But the reason I'm not going to do that this time is because we finally arrived at 1. So I could have called that first chord F major 9, no 3, but instead I told you what it was exactly and just did C over F, which in the key of B flat would be 2 major. Then we do a pedal tone, which allows for the next dissonance, D over F, so it's a 3 major chord. But remember, the F in the bass is just the 5 of B flat. Now here comes that A flat 9, no 3. B flat major 9. There's my next clue of what key we're in. When it goes from that B flat 9 up to that E flat major 9 to E flat 6, E flat 7, flat 9, it is the most classic pop and rock feeling of like we've been in B flat the whole time. And finally, whatever kind of chord it is, it finally goes up to that 4. That is the feeling right there when we go to that E flat major 9, E flat 6, E flat 7, flat 9. Those are all the clues I had to placing this in B flat. And there's this mesmerizing string of chord progressions that comes in 2 bars that leads to this 4 or this E flat major 9. And let me show you what that is. First couple chords sped up a little. A flat 9, no 3. Finally 1, B flat major 9, no 3. Now this thing. Finally 4. Flat 7 again. Then we take that first ending and we're back to the top. But this little thing, this 2 bars that leads up to the 4, or the E flat major 9, has a really interesting sequence. This is very ambiguous. You could call that D minor 7 over F. You could call that F6, even though there's no major third. But what I called it was B flat, add 9, over F because the bass is down here. Because look at the next chord. It does straight up C minor, which is 2 of B flat. And it does this little bass line. So the first 2 bars, it does B flat, add 9 over F, which I voice like this and like this. Then C minor over B flat. So then C major, so it's like 2 major. Finally B flat 9, which is 1 dominant. And it's leading to 4. So yeah, the chords leading up to that E flat major 9 once again are B flat, add 9 over F, to C minor over B flat, right? Cool sound, right? Every time, 99% of the time that a band does a minor chord, like a C minor, it's got C in the bass. But Brian all the time did B flat in the bass, and it really adds a nice, it's not even doing a descending thing like this, which is something you could, it's just straight up going to that. So if you get B flat, add 9 over F, C minor over B flat, now C major over F. Isn't C major over F our first chord? And finally, 1 dominant, B flat 9, and 9 implies dominant 7. If we just wanted 9, we would say add 9 and it would have no 7. But if you say B flat 9, it means a dominant 7 also, letter number. Letter number 7 and above is always dominant. B flat 7 is dominant, B flat 9 is dominant, B flat 13 is dominant. So, in effect, even though there's this sort of sophisticated thing, in the end, that was all blowing smoke up your butt as the listener, because it was just a fancy way of being on 1 and ending up on 4. So yeah, it went C over F, D over F, the minor third in the bass, E flat over F, which is like 4 of B flat, then finally E flat 9, no 3, B flat major 9, no 3. Finally 4, flat 7, but as major 7. So flat 7 doesn't have to be just major or just dominant. It can be very flexible. It can be major 7, it can be minor, it can be minor 7. Flat 7 is a beast. Use it wisely. So in the end, this whole little weird thing going from B flat, the 1, we finally hit 1 at B flat major, 9, no 3, and we end up on 4. And in a way, I feel like it's in blues when it just kind of climbs up to E flat. And that's, I feel like they're just kind of, I feel like Brian's thrown in just this like little, not bluesy, but kind of like a weird climb up from 1 to 4. The most obvious and classic move in all of music is 1 to 4. The other option would be 5. Those are the big choices in life. Am I on 1? Am I on 4? Am I on 5? Or am I on something else? Like 6 or flat 6? Which side are you on? So yeah, we do a weird pedal tone with some dissonances that I'm all calling in B flat, even though it's kind of flirting with C major or G there for the first 3 bars. But it finally settles down when it hits a flat 7 dominant and goes up to 1, B flat major 9, and then does this little weird climb up to get to the 4. Here's the 4. Flat 7, major 7, then all you do is repeat. Second ending. So the second ending does a kind of a surprise thing. Before the second ending, we see E flat major 9, which is when it finally goes to 4. And it's just doing variations on 4, right? E flat major 9 implies a major 7. E flat 6. E flat 7 flat 9, which is always like a diminished chord. And E flat major 9. Then A flat major 7, which might be A flat major 9 even, honestly. I think I hear a 9 in there, but I just wrote major 7. They're the same thing. A little more color that 9 adds, but it's also a little bit more cheesy in a jazz way as that 9. But so careful where you use your 9s, but use them wisely. So the second ending, it goes again to the flat 7 major 7, and it does this little rhythm. It goes G7 flat 9 over B, C minor to A7 flat 9 over C sharp. So that G7 flat 9 over B to C minor is really just a quick 6 dominant to 2 if we're in that key of B flat, right? B flat, the 2 is C minor, so its 5 is going to be G7 flat 9. But for temporarily, you could always think of yourself in C minor for a second. It's the same thing, really. And whenever you see G7 flat 9, you know that's going to be a diminished 7 chord. And if the bass note is different, that means we have a fully diminished 7 chord. Because if we just had G in the bass, that's the only part of this chord that is not in the diminished. See, there's all the diminished 7 notes. Look, G is not one of those notes. So when we have that, we have a truly different bass note. But if I'm specifying a G7 flat 9 over B, the reason I'm calling it that dominant chord instead of just a B diminished 7 is so you can understand the harmonic movement. Anytime you can associate a diminished 7 chord with some dominant chord or a movement of a dominant chord, it helps to intellectualize the chord progression. Sometimes a diminished 7 chord doesn't have the effect of a dominant 7 chord. A diminished 7 chord is very close to 4 different dominant chords. So it is extremely flexible. It creates most of the dissonance in our music, honestly, although I'm not going to say it's relegated to just dissonance because it has all kinds of beauty, but it has a lot of flexibility, the dominant chord. And you can see Brian is using the dominant chord in all kinds of different ways. A flat 9, no 3. We got a regular B flat 9. We have an E flat 7 flat 9, G7 flat 9 over B. So that little passage leading up on the second ending, G7 flat 9 over B, C minor. And then same thing, A7 flat 9 over C sharp. If we just said A7 flat 9, we have a fully diminished 7 chord from the 3, from the 5, from the 7, or from the flat 9, and then a different bass note. See, A is not in there. But that's not what we have here. It's basically just a diminished 7 chord, but the reason I'm calling it an A7 flat 9 is because it's functioning like that, and we're moving toward the chord of D major 7, which basically is a result of the A7 wanting to move up a fourth. So So yeah, sometimes you have to look forward to understand where you're going. It completely changes tempo and time signature to 6/8, and it counts it like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Eighth note equals 172, so a total tempo change there, which really has a nice feel. And I doubt Brian was thinking key here so much in this. But that A7 flat 9 leads right to D major 7. Now, you might think, oh, we're in D major. So you have to look for clues if it uses a major scale, or does it use perhaps a Lydian scale? So you can hear in the background, I don't know which instruments are playing it exactly, but it's does like. So you can see it uses G sharp and not G. D major scale would have that, but this uses. So we are absolutely not in D major. And in fact, anytime you have that Lydian, it's pretty much always the 4. So right there, you could say we are in A. A major, which is, right? Because if it was in D major, it'd be. So the cool thing about this is you can make it seem like you've resolved to the key of D major, when in fact you're in A major. And what led us to this D major? You look back, oh, is that A7 flat 9? Right? That wants to resolve. And the ear would tell you you're in D major, but unfortunately you're in 4 of A major. And it does that pattern, like I said, like this. So yeah, let's just see how we get into, let's take the song after the first ending from the top. Four of B flat, flat 7 dominant, finally to 1 for a second. Finally to 4. Second ending. Change key and tempo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. So totally different feel there. Yeah, the A7 flat 9 leads to D major 7, but D major 7, like I said, is not 1. It's 4. And we do right away, it's in 6, so you have this 1, 2, 3. Very strange choice of bass note right away. It doesn't. You would think it go 5, but no, it goes to E in the bass, or 2, or 9, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, so coming out of the second ending, D major 7. So what ends up happening is in this new section, it drops you off in D major 7, and you probably would think you're in D major, except if you look at this pattern, it's using G sharp, which means we're actually in A major. So we're going 4, major 7, 4, 4, 6. Different bass note. Now this part, F over C, D7 over C, F over C. So that is a weird tension part that I'm roughly saying we're going back to D, but it's only because I know once we hit this part, that's a 4 to 4 minor in a key, which is going to be D. So if I'm really calling this F over C to D7, this F, it's like going flat 3 to 1 in the key of D. How would that work? If we're in D, let's say we're playing rock and roll. 1 dominant. Yeah, that works. That's what it sounds like to me. You could still consider yourself an A major, and that F would have been flat 6, and the D would have been 4, right? So there's a bit of a transition period where it's a loose key affiliation, and there's no telling exactly what key it's in, and that's what's cool about it. I'm trying to just let us know that we're going toward the key of D. And the funny thing is we're going toward the key of D, and we already thought we were in D with that first chord. But we're not. We're in A because of that pattern. So yeah, after that section, it's kind of transitioning. There's F over C to D7 over C, F over C to D7 over C, and finally to G, add 2 over B, which is another Steely Dan chord. And then the classic Brian Wilson minor 7 flat 5 on the flat 5 of a key. In this case, we're in D, so that flat 5 is A flat. That's the beautiful chord trick he does in God Only Knows. If you haven't seen my video on that, I go over that extensively. So yeah, I know that the place where Brian Wilson does the minor 7 flat 5 trick is more often than anything on flat 5 of the given key. In this case, we're in D, so that and what do I mean by that magic chord? In God Only Knows, if I play the verse, the last chord of the verse is a minor 7 flat 5 on the flat 5 of the key. So I don't care. I'm not going to show you the chords. I have a whole video on that. But I want you to just hear this chord. I may not always love you, but long as there are stars above you, you never need to doubt it. Coming up here. I'll make you so sure about it. God only knows what I'd be without you. Yeah, the last chord of the verse, God Only Knows, is what good would living do me? It's right on a minor 7 flat 5 on the flat 5 of the key. So I just want you to realize that this last line here, ending on the A flat minor 7 flat 5, very, very much reminds me of God Only Knows, and it convinced me more than anything that that was another flat 5. In fact, I did my look ahead method, and I said, oh, what key are we in? Oh, A flat minor. And then it drops off down a half step, just like God Only Knows, down to G. So it basically climbs down. And that's a trick you need to learn. It's a universal trick that any major key you're in, if you can find a way to get to flat 5, minor 7, flat 5, otherwise known as half diminished, you will have a great chord change. So if we're in B flat like we are for a lot of this song, if I just walk down, let's say B flat, F over A, G minor, F sharp augmented, B flat over F, now watch E, minor 7, flat 5, that's the flat 5. It's got a magical sound. It's been used in pop music a lot, but nobody has used it more effectively than Brian Wilson. And God only knows is probably the best place it does that. But this really, really reminds me of it thematically. It pops into my head. So there's 4 bars of F over C to D7, and that's the equivalent of going like... So the G add 2 over B is actually another Steely Dan chord. Before I showed you what the C major over F, like in their song Josie and a lot of their other songs. This is a different one of their signature chords, the Mu major, which I don't know if I've ever heard Brian fully do this chord and commit to it, but I hear it here. So this may be the first time I've heard this, and this predates anything on Steely Dan. But I don't know if I have another add 2 or a Mu chord of Brian Wilson at all, but there's definitely one in this song. One of the variations of Steely Dan's famous Mu major chord is to take a major chord, add a 2, and then place it over its major third. So you can have this stack of fourths right here. And it's a really mesmerizing sound. And that is 4 major to 4 minor in the key of D. And it says we're in the key of D right here. Now look at this, F over C to D7. D7 leads us to G major, which is the 4 of D. And there we do this fancy way of going, this isn't any ordinary G minor, right? We put a different note in the bass. You could almost call that a B flat 6 chord, except I don't hear this note. So that's why I'm calling it accurately what it is, G minor with B flat in the bass. But that sounds very similar to G6, watch. It's not far off, but I'm trying to be precise here. So this does a walk down that leads us to that magical flat 5, minor 7, flat 5, which in the key of D is going to be A flat minor 7, flat 5. And I promise you, if you're a big fan of this song, this is that part where you go like, oh my God, what chord is that? That is so cool. So the walk down coming from the D7 is G add 2 over B, which is basically just 4 of D. 4 minor with a different bass note. 4 minor with a different bass note, then A6. Whoops. So yeah, really, really simple sounding, but kind of complex walk down. G add 2 over B, the Steely Dan chord. And where do they use that chord? I didn't tell you that. How about the opening to Deacon Blues? Right there. This actual one, G add 2 over B, same key. Their Deacon Blues intro sounds like this. So yeah, that magical add 2 over its major third. So G add 2 over B, or they could call that the G Mu major, as some Steely Dan geeks would call it. But really nice, G add 2 over B, and you get this little melody in the lower. That thing. And what a beautiful voicing. G. And just the B flat is in the bass, so you just keep an ambiguous, G, D, G up here, because the bass is speaking for itself. If I added this, it gets too crowded. So you get 4 minor minor, now 5, but it's a 6 chord, A6, and you can't have anything more ambiguous than a 6 chord, because a 6 chord sounds like a major and a minor chord at once, and guess what it is? A major and F sharp minor. See, same notes, A6, F sharp minor 7, and A6, same exact notes. It all depends on the context. I could have called this F sharp over A, but I'm just calling it A6 because it's falling down to the flat 5, minor 7, flat 5, before it falls to 4. And that's the same thing it does in God Only Knows. Here it comes, it falls to 4. Da da da. In this case, God Only Knows, it's just A major, but in the case of Let's Go Away For A While, it falls to 4 major 7. And there's a really cool timpani part that does something like that. And all that's doing is 4/5 in the key of D. So the 4 is clear, G major 7. But the A9 sus4, guess what, has a completely other name. The reason I'm calling it A9 sus4 is I wanted to show you that it's functioning as a 5 or a dominant chord in the key of D. But if you were to call this E minor 7, which is 2 of D, right, over A, it's exactly E minor 7 over A. So not wrong to call it that. G major 7, you could call this E minor 7 over A, right? There's E minor 7, there's A. But if I call it A9 with a sus4, there's 9, there's the sus4, there's the 5, there's the dominant 7, it kind of shows you that it's functioning as an A9. So 4/5. We all know what 4/5 means in a major key. There's nothing simpler you can get. So this song has taken a long time to come to almost a normal chord progression, right? It started you off as an absolute no man's land. And finally at the end here, it's so A9 sus4 or E minor 7 over A. Those are exactly the same chords. I would call that semantics. Just calling something a different name is what semantics is in English. So you can have the same thing with chords, although it's not a term I hear thrown around much or ever. Yeah, this dumps you out after that magical flat 5 minor 7 flat 5 or half diminished chord. So let's take it from the dumps you out to 4/5 in D major. Then a little playful break. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Repeats. Mimicking the timpani part in my bass hand. The little playful part. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do 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 do. So yeah, it ends almost as simply as you can, even though there's some nice chord extensions going 4, 5 in D, 4, 5 in D, and finally 5, 1 in D as a little playful bass fill. And even the 5 is the ambiguous 5, because if you're in D, the obvious 5 is going to be A7, right? That's that tension in Western music that wants to resolve to 1. But if you make the 5 chord an A6 instead, remember 6 is the same as 13. So if I put a dominant 7 down there, you'd get a totally different, but this is not that. This is just the ambiguous A6. Could even call that F sharp minor over A. I don't know if I even hear that note in there, but I think it's functioning as a 5-1. So 4, 5 in D. So yeah, there's a little 2 bars of 6/8 that's a playful A6, which is 5 to 1 in D major 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bass fill. Timpani parts. Yeah, let's just review. So once again, this weird intro to me feels like a pedal tone of the B flat major that we're heading towards. So if we did a pedal tone off F in the key of B flat, we'd have like, right? There's so many chords you can justify and keep that tension, and we've all heard that, right? A million times. Anyway, there's a ton you can do with pedal tones, and they just simply start off with 3 chords that I think I'm going to call them all in B flat, even though for that C and that D, you could call them maybe in C or maybe in G. I don't like that with the F bass note because F is not in G. So I'm just going to call this all in B flat. So C over F, which is 2 dominant or 2 major, D over F, E flat over F, flat 7 dominant, finally 1. Just leading up to 4, that's all we're doing here. Flat 7 again, this time major 7. Take the repeat. 2, 3, 4, flat 7 dominant, finally 1. Fancy way to get up a 4. Up to 4. Second ending. So yeah, the song starts out with a pedal tone from the 5 of B flat major and just does some dissonance. It doesn't start you anywhere near the root. You have no idea where you are until... And a fancy way to get from the 1 up to the 4 is just... Finally we make it up to 4. Just fancy ways to do 4. Second ending. Flat 7, 6 dominant, 2, then a new key, A7 flat 9 over C sharp, and we're in the key of A, and then we go up to D major, which is 4 of A, as evidenced by that's an A. Then F sharp minor over C sharp, which is 6. Now I'm saying we're changing keys to D. So we have flat 3, 1 dominant, flat 3, 1 dominant, and finally 4 minor, 5, flat 5, minor 7, flat 5, and finally dumping you off to a 4-5 in D. 5. Remember that A9 sus4, you could call it E minor 7 over A. That little playful part at the end, A6, D major 7. So yeah, this is a super interesting song. It doesn't follow even some of Brian's usual harmonic forms and is a little bit more adventurous, maybe because there's no vocals. And when you don't have to have a lead vocal and something catchy, you can kind of, go in whatever direction you want with the music and the chords and things like that. And it looks like what he did. So I'm sure some of you might disagree with some of the judgments I made on which key we're in and which extensions to omit and to add in certain spots here. But wow, what a song, what a piece of a compositional genius by Brian Wilson here. So please subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, check out the playlist page to find out the videos that most interest you. But the best way you can support my channel, which is super helpful to me, honestly, is to become a patron on my Patreon, High Castle Conservatory, and you will get exclusive things and all kinds of goodies. Thanks a lot for watching this video and taking an interest in my channel. Please help me reach a larger audience by hitting subscribe below and ringing the notification bell. Check out my video playlist page to find the categories that most interest you. Leave me a super thanks here on YouTube, and even better, come join my Patreon. Please consider buying music for my original projects I.S.S. and High Castle Teleorchestra. Also, don't forget to sign up for my email list on the front page of timsmolens.com. You can find information about all of those things in the description below. Thanks again.